Welcome to Half 2-4. Today in the show, Harry Kane stamps 66 goals for the season and takes the Ballon d'Or. While Uli Hoeness cynically destroys Barca right by the pitch, the transfer hunt of Jose Mourinho, the special one, arrived to steal the best Bundesliga player, Michael Olise. And the answer of the Munich bosses is already known. Also today, Liverpool prepares a crazy 100 million euros for the 19-year-old heir of Salah. Julian Alvarez flees from Simeone to Camp Nou, and the captain of Tottenham staged a démarche. We talk about all this and much more right now. Harry Kane did it. Bayern takes the German Cup, completes a golden double, and the English striker himself put on a real historical show in the final, scoring 3 goals against Stuttgart. This hat-trick raised his statistics to an absolutely cosmic, unattainable level 61 goals for the club season. And if you add here the matches for the England national team, then Harry has a crazy 66 goals in total. Right now, he is the main favorite in the race for the Ballon d'Or. Ahead is the World Cup. And if England performs well there, then any discussions about the best football player of the planet will be closed. Against the background of this triumph, the honorary president of the Munich side, Uli Hoeness, right by the pitch, already managed to give a tough rebuff to all rumors about the transfer of Harry to Barca. Kane is one of the best transfers we ever made, and he's staying with us. Barca have no money anyway. Harry Kane himself, after the final whistle, did not restrain his emotions and honestly admitted that this was one of the best nights of his career. This was definitely one of the best nights of my career. I was incredibly excited for this final. I'd heard so much about it from many players who had already experienced this final with the club. And then to score a hat trick in a final, it's really a very special game and a very special feeling. I'm extremely proud of that. I loved this season at Bayern. And do you know what is most interesting? Kane deserved this main individual award not just for one splendid year, but for fantastic stability. While other stars shoot for 1 or 2 seasons and disappear from the radars, Harry already for tens of years stably works as an ideal machine for stamping goals. Just look at his statistics for the last 10 years. Impressive? And for his entire career, the Englishman scored 517 goals. Out of them, 439 goals he registered at the club level and another 78 for the national team. This is the statistics of first-tier legends. That is why the management of the club does not even want to hear about any castings or negotiations. Munich is building a long-term project where Harry is the central figure around whom the whole attack revolves. Listen, my opinion here is completely unambiguous. If Harry Kane does not get the Ballon d'Or this year, it will be the biggest robbery in the history of football. A person scores 66 goals per season, drags the team to trophies, and shows a cosmic level of efficiency in every match. And the words of Hoeness about Barca, this is just a separate pleasure and a precise reflection of reality. Because trying to sign such a forward with an empty wallet, it is ridiculous. Kane found his ideal home, he stamps cups, and I sincerely believe that this very year will become an absolute peak for him. And what do you think, friends? Will anyone be able to take the Ballon d'Or from Harry if England suddenly fails at the World Cup? Or has he already guaranteed himself the award? Jose Mourinho, Berlin, the German Cup final, which we just talked about. The future helmsman of the Madrid side, Real, sits in the stands in a blue cap, as if trying to remain unnoticed. But this is the special one. Everyone sees his maneuvers. And the entire football world momentarily calculated the situation. The Portuguese arrived to negotiate the transfer of Michael Olise. Only this time, the former king of the market ran into a real German wall, because while Jose was taking notes on the game from the stands, the bosses of Munich, right before the opening whistle, clearly announced that they would not give away their diamond for any money. According to the data of the Bild edition, the Portuguese coach was invited to Berlin for the match between Bayern and Stuttgart by the sports director of the Swabians, Fabian Wohlgemuth, through connections with the Jorge Mendes agency. However, everyone perfectly understands Jose flew to the capital not for the sake of the modest Stuttgart. His target was precisely Michael Olise, who just received the award of the best player of the Bundesliga following the results of the season 2025-2026 in the voting. The French winger managed to overtake Harry Kane himself, delivering simply cosmic figures: 15 scored goals and 19 assists in the championship. This is a unique achievement, as Michael became the first player in Germany since the days of Jadon Sancho in the season 2019-2020 to conquer the 15+15 bar. And do you know what is most interesting? The attempt of Mourinho to evaluate the player with his own eyes ended with a harsh slap from the management. The honorary president of Bayern, Uli Hoeness, went out to the press and commented on the presence of the Portuguese in an extremely straightforward way. He can keep 5 eyes on Olise, he will never get him. These words are fully confirmed by the position of the club. The sports director, Max Eberl, confirmed that the current contract of the Frenchman is calculated until the 30th of June 2029, and there is no release clause amount in it at all. Moreover, Munich has already prepared a new agreement until the year 2031 with a salary increase. Michael himself answered the rumors right on the pitch. In the cup final, he gave a splendid assist. His team completely demolished Stuttgart with a score of 3-0, and the 24-year-old Frenchman himself raised the trophy over his head. Jose watched, Olise showed class, and went to celebrate with the team. Listen, my opinion is simple. I perfectly understand the logic of Jose Mourinho. Olise right now is at such a level that it is necessary to buy him immediately, because the guy single-handedly makes a difference on the pitch. But in football, there are still situations where everything is decided not by billions, but by the firm position of the club. A contract for long years, the absence of a clause, and a personal no from Uli Hoeness. This is a dead end for the buyer. Mourinho can turn on his signature psychological pressure as much as he wants, but this time he will have to look for other options on the market. And what do you think, friends? Is there at least something in modern football capable of forcing Bayern to sell their leader, or did Jose receive a final refusal? Leave your comments. Imagine a picture. 19 years. A year ago, the guy played in the second Spanish division and was not needed by anyone outside of Spain. And today, Mohamed Salah leaves Anfield, and the Merseysiders define this youth as his successor, for the sake of whom they are ready to lay out 100 million euros. Liverpool and PSG are already chasing him, and RB Leipzig set a crazy price tag. Get acquainted, Yan Diomande, a name that you will hear from every iron throughout the whole summer. Let us look into how yesterday's reserve player became the main lot of the European market. Let us look at the pure facts. Last summer, German scouts, having studied the game of the Ivorian for the modest Spanish Leganes, came to the management with a verdict: sign him immediately. As a result, the Germans bought the forward for only 20 million euros, and the guy momentarily exploded in the Bundesliga. In the current season, Yan Diomande spent 36 matches in which he scored 13 goals and gave 10 assists, winning the prize of the best newcomer of the championship. Just think about it. The experts of the Transfermarkt portal evaluate him already at 75 million euros. That is, in 1 year, the club increased the value of its asset almost 4 times. It is no wonder that the authoritative insider David Ornstein from the Athletic edition calls him the main target of Liverpool. The English see in him an ideal replacement for Salah and are ready to give 100 million. However, there are several important nuances. The current agreement of Yan is calculated until the year 2030, and the management of the Bulls is already developing a new improved contract for him. The player himself recently expressed himself very diplomatically. I like it in Leipzig, but my dream is to play at the highest level. That is a clear maybe. Much will depend on whether the team of Arne Slot can guarantee itself a place in the Champions League without the main European Cup. It will be difficult to convince the player. In addition, PSG stands on the horizon. The French, led by Luis Enrique, are ready to beat the offer of the English, but they will do this only in the event that in the summer Paris is left by someone from the current leaders of the attack. Listen, my opinion here is unambiguous. Yan Diomande really looks like a unique nugget. To collect a figure of 13 plus 10 in such a difficult league as the Bundesliga at 19 years, this is a very serious level. Leipzig knew that they were taking a talent, but even they did not expect such an instant rise. Of course, paying 100 million euros for a guy after one season, this is a huge financial risk for Liverpool because the pressure of the press after the departure of Salah will be simply wild and can break the young winger. This reminds me a bit of the story of Ousmane Dembele in his time. And what do you think? The current contract is until the year 2030. The amount of release clauses, a crazy 500 million euros. The Madrid club is categorically against the sale. But with all this, Barca's already preparing the first call. And Julian Alvarez himself can change his registration because of a serious internal conflict. Insider Mateo Moretto blew up the transfer market with the news. The relationship between the Argentine forward and the head coach Diego Simeone seriously cracked. This is a real intrigue because the Catalans have already studied the situation and are preparing a move that will completely close the question with a new striker at Camp Nou. In essence, the relationship between the coach and the player is currently in a crisis state. This is not a break, but not a trace remains of the former idol. Simeone already reacted nervously several times at press conferences, throwing to journalists, "I am not inside his head." The Madrid side is trying to save the situation and offers Julian Alvarez a new agreement with a salary of up to 10 million euros a year, the highest in the team, to make him the face of the project after the departure of Griezmann. But the player is in no hurry to put his signature. Instead, Julian openly tells his environment, if he changes the club, then his only priority is Barca, because he wants to stay precisely in Spain. The bosses of the Catalans plan in the nearest time to come into direct contact both with the management of Atleti and with the agents of the striker. Of course, the main obstacle, this is a clause of 500 million euros, but if the football player himself starts to press, the Madrid side will be forced to sit at the negotiating table and lower the bar to a realistic market amount. The Catalans know this, but they will have to act in conditions of tough competition. PSG claims Julian with a huge budget, and in England, the London side Arsenal has been monitoring the situation for a long time, which is ready to lay out over 92 million euros to compensate for the past expenses of Madrid on the purchase of the player from Manchester City. However, the desire of the Argentine himself to play in La Liga currently confuses all the cards for the competitors. Listen, before us is a classic triangle where the club wants to retain the leader, the coach and the player are already not on the same wavelength, and buyers have lined up in a queue. If Barca, with serious financial limitations, manages to intercept Julian, this will be the loudest internal transfer in Spain in recent years. Julian, a smart, versatile striker who single-handedly decides the fate of matches. The conflict with Simeone looks strange, but everyone knows the character of Diego. There, either you completely obey the system or you look for an exit. In this game, the position of the player himself in favor of the Blaugrana is worth more than any clause. Tottenham plays the most important match over the last decade's direct survival in the Premier League. The team is in crisis, the fans are in panic, and the captain of the club is in Argentina, watching football. His favorite club, this is not a joke, this is Cristian Romero in 2026. In essence, Romero received a knee injury back in April in the defeat against Sunderland. In the first match of Zerbi on the coaching bench, the season for him is over. But instead of sitting in the stand next to the team at the most important moment, he flew out to Argentina to watch the final of the championship between his native club Belgrano and River. De Zerbi, at the press conference, tried to remain diplomatic. He went to complete rehabilitation with Argentine medics. We spoke last week. With me, he always showed a desire to be with us. He is injured. I am not stupid. I am not stupid. This is already not diplomacy. This is a signal. And do you know what is most interesting? According to information from Team Talk, Tottenham has already opened the doors for the exit of Romero. The club is ready to sell him in the summer if an offer arrives that corresponds to their evaluation. Intermediaries have already begun to sound out the market. Atleti, the main candidate. Simeone has wanted his compatriot for a long time. Tottenham is ready to let him go for 70-80 million pounds. And the fact that the jersey of Romero in the club shop is already being sold with a 50% discount that is for £46. This is just the cherry on the cake. The club decided everything already. It just did not officially announce it yet. I understand that Belgrano, this is his heart, his childhood, but you are the captain of the club that fights for survival. Your team plays a match after which it can find itself in the championship, and you choose football in Argentina. Zerbi said, "I am not stupid," and I think he meant, "I understand everything." Romero is already with his thoughts in Madrid, and honestly speaking, after this, let him go.
When I say talented,
third coach of the season. Not a single victory in the Premier League since December. The captain flew to watch someone else's match instead of supporting the team, and still they survived. Tottenham remains in the Premier League, 1-0. Palhinha and tears in the eyes of Zerbi. Let us start from the beginning, because this story deserves context. Zerbi arrived in April, the third coach of the season, when Tottenham stood 1 point above the relegation zone and had not won in the league since 2025. Many said, too late, too difficult, wrong choice. He signed a 5-year contract and immediately stated, "I will be the coach of Tottenham next season regardless of the result. This is the most important challenge of my career." This is no longer a firefighter coach. This is a person with a plan. The first victory in the league in 2026 came only at the end of April over Wolverhampton, thanks to a goal by Palhinha in the 82nd minute. That same Palhinha, who today again decided the fate of the club, tapping in the ball after a corner into the net of Everton and saving Tottenham from relegation. And the tension was crazy. In injury time, goalkeeper Kinski, in a dive in the final seconds, saved a shot by Tyreek George, and the stadium went crazy. 1 centimeter and everything could be different. Zerbi, before the match, said, "Sunday for Tottenham is more important than last year's Europa League final. We play for dignity, for pride, for the history of the club. The last 45 days, I lived only for one thing: this match." He did not exaggerate. This is one of the craziest seasons in the history of Tottenham. 3 coaches, the scandal with Romero, not a single victory for months, and still they survived. Zerbi, in a few weeks, did what the 2 previous coaches failed to do in the entire season: gave the team faith. Now ahead is the transfer window, rebuilding, and a 5-year project. If he pulls this off, he will be a real legend. The first step is made, but I have a feeling that this Tottenham next season will fight for the top 5. And what do you think, friends?
No.
He won a double together with Bayern, raised trophies, worked out the season to the end like a true professional, and now packs bags for free. And Milan is already waiting. Leon Goretzka, the loudest free agent of this summer, in essence. Back in January, Bayern officially confirmed the contract of Goretzka until the end of June 2026 will not be extended. 8 years, almost 300 matches, 6 championship titles, and a parting without compensation. Just like that. In the winter, there were offers. Atleti even had a ready contract for signing. But Goretzka refused and stayed to watch the season to the end. Said, "I feel a deep connection with this team and club." That is what character is. And do you know what? Even after leaving the squad, he publicly stated about Bayern, "If the majority of the team, and especially the coach, stay together, I have no doubts that sooner or later they will win the Champions League." Without any offense. Now about Milan. Allegri returned to Milan last summer and immediately set a task to return the club to the Champions League. Goretzka, his main target in the midfield, a meeting with the agents is already next week. A contract until 2029 with an option for 2030, and a solid bonus upon signing. But there is a nuance. The position of Allegri himself in the club is not 100% stable after a weak completion of the season. That is, the coach signs a player for himself, and the club is still deciding whether to keep the coach. Goretzka deserved a better final at Bayern. A person for years dragged this club and received a cold "thank you, goodbye." But he came out of this with dignity, won another trophy, and now is free to choose. Milan an interesting option, though I would first wait to see who will even coach there next season.